It looks like we got lost. I was driving in search of Rosebud Lane, but all I could see around were endless rows of identical suburban houses crammed together and stretching on indefinitely. Sighing, I slowed down at the roadside. "Can you check the GPS, of course?" Dave fiddled with his phone while I looked through the windshield. Despite the beautiful sunny day, the area felt like a ghost town. No one was walking dogs. Children weren't playing in the streets. I glanced at the houses, and although it was hard to tell from the reflections in the windows, the curtains seemed to be drawn. Dave sighed. "This is ridiculous. What's wrong?" He handed me his phone. The app showed our location, in the middle of a forest. I zoomed in a bit, but there was no sign of any suburban area. Strange. I pulled out my phone and opened the maps, getting the exact same result. We were a tiny blue dot in the middle of the woods. The nearest road was a 2-lane highway we had recently exited. It looks like the area is brand new. Google Maps were almost always accurate, but if the houses had been built recently, perhaps the software hadn't caught up yet. They did look brand new, tall gables, large windows without shutters, all painted in neutral colors, perfect grass, with no signs of chaos from dogs or children, immaculately white, almost glowing house trim. The windows gleamed like mirrors. I immediately hated the sterile, almost unnatural look of the houses. It was as if they had been copied straight from a video game and plopped into our mundane world. No fingerprints of the owners, no signs of wear, no character. Everything was just sterile, empty, and perfect. Maybe you should call Megan. Dave glanced at his watch. "I don't want to interrupt the celebration." "Yeah, but we're lost, and the GPS isn't working." He sighed. "If we don't find the house in 10 minutes, I'll call her." That's just Dave always thinking about others, which is nice until we find ourselves in a situation like this. He would rather waste our time aimlessly driving around the suburb than take 2 minutes to call Megan, fearing it might seem rude. He's always like that. But it didn't matter. The situation wasn't worth an argument. I kept crawling down the street, passing more and more identical houses. But just when I thought maybe I should make him call Megan, I saw it. A turn. I sped toward the intersection, hoping the little green sign would direct us to Rosebud Lane, but as I got closer, everything inside me dropped. What the? The sign was blank, just a green metal rectangle. There was no text on it at all. "Wow, someone messed up," Dave laughed. "They had one job. Do you think we should turn?" "Wait, let me check the GPS again." Dave started fiddling with his phone. The car purred to a stop at the corner. "No, still in the woods. Let's turn." I turned on the indicator and turned onto the unnamed street. Even more polished houses with curtained windows. Each one was painted in a neutral beige color with white trim. Even the lawns in front of the houses looked identical, 3 bushes along the porch and a large hydrangea beside the garage. There were no cars in the driveways. Just like on the previous street, I wondered if the houses were so new that no one had moved in yet. Whole streets of empty houses. The thought sent a chill down my spine. How strange it would be to live in this neighborhood surrounded by empty houses. I wouldn't want to live here. The word slipped out. Azra. It wouldn't be bad to live in a new house. Nothing would be breaking every 2 minutes. But all the houses look exactly the same. I shook my head. I bet they have some ridiculously strict neighborhood rules. Maybe we continue down the road. It seemed like the houses stretched into infinity, disappearing into a light fog. Which house do we need? Number 52. Yes, I slowed down, scanning for mailboxes to check the house numbers. But there were no mailboxes. Was there a communal one somewhere like in apartment buildings? Then I realized the houses didn't have numbers on the front doors or garages at all. How strange. We kept driving, and I couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. Identical houses stretching into infinity. It was as if someone had just copied them from a computer screen. I sighed and stared at the road, looking for signs of life, individuality, anything. And finally, through the darkness and fog, a splash of color emerged. A stop sign. Oh great. Let's see what street we're on. But as we approached, my stomach twisted. My heart raced in my chest. There was no intersection, no crosswalk. Nothing to justify the presence of a stop sign, yet the sign was there. And on the other side of the road stood its twin, beckoning hypothetical oncoming cars to stop. There's no reason to put a stop sign here. Maybe it's something inclusive. Like the owner of this house is blind, so everyone needs to stop here so they don't hit him. Does that even exist? I mean, it's nice and all, but I've never seen that. He shrugged. I think we should turn around. I no longer wanted to dart around like a rat in a maze. Let's drive a little more, Dave replied. If we don't find the house in 5 minutes, we'll turn back. I don't know why I obeyed him. Probably because, logically speaking, I understood that there was not much risk in driving around this strange neighborhood. It wasn't the woods where you could get lost, die of dehydration, or be eaten by wild animals. It was noon, and we were driving down a road in a residential suburb. But the instinctual part of me, that part that had evolved over hundreds of thousands of years and once prevented the human race from going extinct long ago, oh, it was screaming. Something is wrong here. Get out. Get away. Right now, oh. I drove ahead, glancing in the rearview mirror. The stop sign stood in its place, bright red, unnatural against the darkening, gloomy sky. For the next few minutes, we didn't get any closer to Megan's house. There were no road signs, no mailboxes, no indications of where we were headed. Even the GPS in the car seemed to be malfunctioning. It switched from north to west a few times, even though it felt like we were driving straight. Finally, I pulled over and took out my phone. I'll call Megan, Dave said after a moment, breaking the silence. Thanks, I snapped in response, unable to hide the irritation in my voice. After a moment, Dave shook his head. She's not picking up. Fine, let's just go home. But we promised we'd come. I sighed and stared at him. Okay, what do you want from me? We're lost. The GPS isn't working, and she's not picking up. He fell silent, looking around. Maybe we should ask someone. Who? There's nobody here. Maybe knock on a door. My eyes widened. That's weird. Listen, let's just knock on the door and ask. If no one answers, we'll give up and go home. I sighed heavily. Fine. We got out and walked down the driveway. The sky was no longer bright and sunny. It had somehow become overcast with gray clouds, and it was so quiet. No voices, no noise from passing cars, no barking dogs, just our footsteps on the sidewalk. We approached the front door. There was no doorbell. I knocked. Knock, knock, knock. There were no footsteps or barking from inside. It looks like no one's home. Wait a second. Is the address at least correct? Rosebud Lane, 52, right? I'm 99% sure, but let me check. Dave pulled out his phone and opened the messages. Yes, a minute passed. I knocked again. Then I looked through one of the windows near the door. What the hell? Al, the layout of the house was, let's say, strange. The staircase was in the center of the hallway, with nothing on either side. Behind it, in the kitchen, towered a cabinet tower from floor to ceiling. No countertops, just a tower of cabinets. A painting hung on the wall, a woman standing on a rainy city street, but her eyes were painted upside down. What the hell? I felt like I was looking at an image drawn by artificial intelligence. Something created by a machine trying to reproduce what a house should look like inside, without any understanding of the purpose of stairs, cabinets, or human behavior at all. Look, I said, beckoning Dave. But he didn't share my concern. He just laughed. Wow, whoever designed these houses is a complete idiot, he whispered. Can we leave now? Yeah, sure. We headed back to the car. As I walked around to get in the driver's seat, I felt my hair stand on end at the back of my neck. A familiar feeling, a sensation that I was being watched. I turned sharply but saw only a row of beige houses, staring at me with their dark, shiny windows. We should have been there by now. You probably just missed the right house, Dave replied. No, I didn't miss it. It was almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My stomach was growling. My shoulders ached. I just wanted to go home and curl up under a blanket, watch YouTube. drink some tea. We had made just one turn, but returning down the same streets, for some reason we still hadn't reached it. We hadn't even passed the strange stop sign. Nothing looked familiar, even though everything seemed familiar because all the houses were the same. We probably need to go further down the street. I just want to go home. I couldn't hold back any longer, but a few minutes later we passed something we definitely hadn't seen on the way here. A house. A completely different house. It stood on the left side of the road. Everything about it was like the other houses, except for the railings on the porch. They were installed, let's say upside down. More precisely, the railings were bolted to the underside of the roof at eye level. What the hell is this? I slowed down. We both stared at the house. No builder or designer would make such a mistake. They wouldn't, right? Soon another different house appeared, this time on the right. Two windows were joined into one long 5-meter window stretching from the ground to the roof. What the hell, Dave whispered. This shouldn't be happening. My heart raced in my chest, and then I saw it. Just a few houses ahead was a mailbox, the only mailbox in this crazy neighborhood, and in small golden letters on it, it read, Rosebud Lane, 52 above the mailbox. A solitary pink balloon dangled in the air, fluttering in the wind. No, this is impossible. This doesn't make any sense. There were no cars parked on the road. No voices or music came from the house. No signs of a party, except for that poor balloon. I'm calling Megan. Dave's phone rang with steady tones, and then Megan picked up. Dave, where are you guys? We got a little lost. We're in your neighborhood and... He paused. Is there a pink balloon tied to your mailbox? No, Megan replied. Confused, I have a blue house on the hill, at the end of the cul-de-sac. Did you turn on Mountain Avenue? It's a bit tricky to get here. She kept talking, but I wasn't listening. I was looking at the house, at the window on the second floor, where a figure stood in the darkness, watching us. Without thinking any longer, I started the car and turned around. The tires screeched on the asphalt. Dave turned to me with wide, surprised eyes. Someone is watching us. From that house, I pressed the gas pedal to the floor. The car shot down the suburban road. Slow down, Dave yelled. I glanced at the speedometer, 90 kilometers per hour. No, we need to get out of here. We're going to crash, damn it. Slow down. And I had to slow down, because ahead, materializing from the fog, was a stop sign. This time there was a crosswalk behind it, and a group of school children crossing the road. I slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt. We lurched forward, the seat belts digging into our chests. Then I looked up, and all the muscles in my body froze. It wasn't a group of school children. It was a tangle of arms and legs, backpacks and sneakers, messy hair and ponytails, a jumble gathered together like some nightmare puzzle. No faces, no eyes, just something that, at a glance, resembled an ordinary group of kids crossing the street. I stared at the monstrosity 6 meters in front of us, partially obscured by the fog, and then I put the car in reverse. What are you doing? Call 911, I shouted to Dave, right now. We sped past the upside-down railings, the 15-foot window, the pink balloon. As we drove by, the houses became increasingly strange, chimneys reaching into the sky, floating gables, wooden floors merging with the grass. They say they can't track our location. Then I don't know. Tell them to go to the highway. Highway 140. Turn onto Glenmont Road, and then right into this neighborhood. He relayed this to them, but it didn't get any easier. If we couldn't go back the same way, if they couldn't track our location, how would they find us? I slowed down a little, scanning the street for something, anything familiar. But all I saw were windows. The curtains were wide open in every single one, and behind them stood people, looking at us. Though people could be said with great reservation, everything about them was wrong. Their faces were oddly proportioned, elongated and shapeless. Their eyes were upside down, and they had too many arms. The people looked like they had been created by some horrific artificial intelligence, just like the houses they lived in. It's almost 10 in the evening. The sky should be dark, but it's not. It's still the same cloudy gray color, We've turned so many times that I've lost count. Back and forth, back and forth. The neighborhood no longer looks uniform. The houses and people are always different. It's as if the world changes every time we pass by, appearing and disappearing from reality. The police called us. They tried to find us over and over again, but each time they were unsuccessful. They insisted that in the described location, there were only acres of forest. I tried to call for help. My parents also tried to find us. Nothing worked. I have only 10% battery left, so I'm posting this online in hopes that maybe someone somewhere knows how to get out of this place. Maybe we can finally break free. I'm so hungry. I'm so tired. All I want is to stop the car, recline the seat, and drift off to sleep. But I'm afraid that if I do, they'll get to us. The inhumans in the houses. They are learning. With each hour, they become more and more like humans, more like us. And they are getting bolder. I see children standing on the lawn in front of the house, motionless like statues. Women standing on the sidewalk with faces that almost pass for human. Men crossing the street in front of us. Every time we pass by, they all begin to move in our direction, as if we are drawing them to us. Dave is driving right now, so I can post this. Maybe I'll take a short nap. For a little while, I won't be trapped anymore. I'll sleep and dream of being home, curled up with a cup of tea, watching TV with Dave. I'll escape this place, at least for an hour. That's all. I hope someone out there knows how we can escape. And if not, then may sleep at least bring me some comfort.